Walk into almost any town in the world and say, "Let's go to the bar," and everyone instantly knows what you mean. Drinks, stools, a counter, maybe music, maybe silence, maybe a neon sign humming in the background. What's interesting is that we almost never stop to ask why we call it a bar in the first place. It's such a normal word that it fades into the background like table or door. But when you think about it, it's kind of strange. A bar isn't a place you get arrested, and it's not exactly a rod of metal either. Yet that's what the word originally meant. So how did a solid object, something meant to block or separate, become the universal name for a place where people gather to drink, talk, and sometimes overshare their life stories to strangers? To answer that, we have to rewind a few centuries and follow the word itself as it quietly evolved alongside human social habits, right here on History of Simple Things. The word bar comes from the Old French bar, which itself traces back to Latin roots meaning a physical barrier or obstruction. A bar was literally something solid, wood, iron, or stone, used to block, lock, or divide space. Think prison bars, gate bars, or even the bar you lower across a door to keep it shut. The idea was always the same, a firm boundary between two sides. This meaning stuck around for centuries and still exists today. But something interesting happened when food and drink entered the picture. In medieval Europe, taverns and inns were busy, noisy places where alcohol flowed freely, and not everyone inside could be trusted. To maintain some control, tavern keepers began installing physical wooden bars or counters between themselves and their customers. This barrier wasn't decorative, it was practical. It protected the alcohol, the money, and sometimes the person serving it. That wooden barrier became the heart of the establishment. On one side stood the tavern keeper, surrounded by barrels, bottles, and supplies. On the other stood the customers, waiting to be served. Over time, people began referring not just to the physical barrier, but to the entire serving area as the bar. Phrases like "stand at the bar" or "lean against the bar" became common, and eventually the word stopped meaning just the object and started meaning the experience. This shift wasn't unique. Language does this all the time. But in this case, the counter was so central to drinking culture that it gave its name to the entire place. By the time you reach the 17th and 18th centuries, bar was firmly established as the spot where drinks were ordered, even if the physical barrier itself wasn't particularly prominent anymore. As taverns evolved into saloons, pubs, and cocktail lounges, the word bar came along for the ride. In American saloons of the 1800s, the bar was often a long, polished wooden counter that dominated the room. It separated customers from the bottles and mirrored shelves behind it, reinforcing that original idea of division, even if it was now more symbolic than defensive. The bartender controlled what crossed that boundary. Drinks went one way, money went the other. Eventually, people stopped thinking of the bar as something you stood at and started thinking of it as a place you went to. That's when sentences like, "Let's meet at the bar," or "There's a new bar downtown," became completely normal, even though the word was originally describing furniture. You might wonder why bar survived, while words like tavern, inn, or alehouse became more specific or old-fashioned. Part of the reason is simplicity. Bar is short, punchy, and easy to say. It also focuses on the act of drinking rather than lodging, food, or social class. A tavern might suggest meals and long stays. A pub has strong cultural roots in Britain. But a bar? A bar is universal. It doesn't promise comfort, food, or tradition. It just promises drinks. That flexibility allowed the word to travel easily across countries and cultures, adapting to everything from dive bars to upscale cocktail lounges without needing to change its meaning. What's fascinating is that alcohol isn't the only place where bar kept its original sense of separation. In law, the bar refers to the physical barrier in a courtroom that once separated lawyers from the public. To pass the bar literally meant crossing that boundary and being allowed to practice law. In music, a bar is a measure, a boundary dividing time. Even in gymnastics, the bar is a solid structure meant to support and challenge movement. In every case, the core idea remains the same. A bar marks a division. The drinking bar just happens to be the most social and arguably the most fun version of that concept. There's a bit of irony here. The bar started as something meant to keep people separated, yet today it's one of the most social spaces we have. It's where conversations start, friendships form, and sometimes entire nights spiral into chaos. The physical barrier is still there, but now it feels less like a wall and more like a meeting point. You don't just order drinks at a bar, you linger there, talk there, rest your elbows there. The object that once controlled access ended up defining an atmosphere. And that's probably why the word stuck so well. It didn't just name a thing, it captured a feeling. So the next time someone says, "Let's go to the bar," you'll know that the word carries centuries of history behind it. From medieval wooden barriers to modern neon-lit counters, bar evolved from a tool of separation into a symbol of social connection. It's one of those everyday words that hides its story in plain sight, quietly reminding us that even the simplest things, like the place where we grab a drink, have deeper roots than we ever expect. And that's what makes these ordinary words worth unpacking, because once you know their story, you never hear them the same way again. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.